I like dolls, but I love books. Okay, you got me. I love dolls too. Hello out there, all you spooky little doll-loving book nerds, and welcome to my channel where my dolls and I sit and talk about books. Sometimes it's Barbie, sometimes it's Illy, sometimes it's Monster High, sometimes it's a Disney princess. Okay, must I carry on because I feel like you get the point. Basically, my dolls and I have our own little book club. My name is Daniel, and I am the Barbie book boy. You guys, I feel like some of my dolls have totally lost perspective. And truly, I blame myself. I've just been too indulgent with them. You know, the thing is, I desperately want to be a good papa to all of my plastic pals, so I tend to cave when they give me those adorable little blank stares. But the result is an attitude of entitlement that I've had it up to here with, so I need to help them gain a little perspective. And what better way to sort them out than to have them walk a mile in someone else's uncomfortable shoes? But I really think I need to make it fun, otherwise I risk mutiny. And the day that they all turn on me will surely be my last. But until then, I've got to present it to them in the guise of entertainment so they won't know they're learning. I've got to seek professional help for these delusions of mine. At whatever, I have fun. And that's precisely what I intend to do today by discussing a kooky little book called Verity Vox and the Curse of Foxfire by Dawn Martin. I think it's just the book to help my girls come to their senses and clean up their act. Hopefully, the titular character of Verity will inspire them to fly right from now on. But it isn't all serious, which is why I've invited a gal on the channel today who's the perfect blend of sugar and spice and everything nice. But without further ado, the girl you've all been waiting for since seeing her in the thumbnail. The vintage reproduction Peaches and Cream Barbie. This pretty lady became available back in June, and I immediately hopped on one and adopted one for myself. The original doll is from 1985, which is also the year that I was born. And I've been on this kick lately of trying to scoop up all of my favorite dolls from that year, my birth year, the year I was born. So you can imagine my excitement when I saw that Mattel was releasing a new reproduction. Because I don't mind a well-done reproduction. They can be absolutely beautiful. And for a wealth-challenged person such as myself, often more affordable. And this gal captures all the things I long for in the original. From her superstar face and body sculpt to her creamy bodice and fluffy peach skirt. She's magically fulfilling my fantasy of pure 80s Barbiecore. But speaking of magic, let's get into the book. Young witch trainee Verity Vox has been doing a pretty good job thus far on her tour of duty, so to speak. As a witch in training, Verity has to spend time helping out communities or people in need without the aid or interference of her coven. Them's just the rules of witchcraft. Young witch trainees are essentially just thrown to the wolves to learn how to fend for themselves and how to problem solve like on their own in real time. And so for Verity, it's been pretty smooth sailing, or should I say smooth flying, until a new quest sees her hopping on her broom with her familiar called Jack Be Nimble and flying off to some forgotten town called Foxfire. Side note, if I ever have a familiar of my own, Jack Be Nimble is an adorable name to use, although Verity just calls him Jack for short. Anyway, Verity is forced to speed up her magical education on this new venture because the town is majorly cursed. Years ago, a dastardly magician named Earl blew through town and cursed Foxfire before scampering off to hide in the Appalachian Mountains, like a little cursing mountain hiding weasel. And his curse has essentially turned their little hamlet into a total flop. Like, all of their food has stopped growing and pretty much everybody in the town is starving. Oh, also all of their possessions randomly begin like falling apart. But the real tragedy is some of the townsfolk have gone missing. Rumor has it that anyone who went to this oily magician for any little bit of magical help gets a nasty case of be careful what you wish for. Because this magician is a tricky little deal maker and his terms are always like super shady. So our young little witch friend needs to break this curse for the citizens of Foxfire, many of whom want nothing to do with her or magic after everybody's been getting burned by this horrible magician Earl. But the curse itself seems to be tied to a mystery that's buried like deep within the Appalachian Mountains. And Verity has to do it all before the end of her assignment in the town of Foxfire, or else she'll have to leave for her next job, and the good citizens of this poor cursed little town will be royally screwed. And that's basically the story of Verity Vox and the Curse of Foxfire by Don Martin. So what are my thoughts? No, but I like your spunk, which also just so happens to be one of the things I loved about this book. Spunky female characters. But don't let their spunkiness fool you. They're also brave and tough as nails. Verity in particular, who really has her work cut out for her trying to solve this curse. But her inherent sense of integrity drives her to make sure that she always does the right thing. Quite often at her own expense. Because as is stated in the book, allow me to read an exact quote. Sometimes we must fight monsters so that others don't have to. And as a queer person who's originally from a small town not unlike Foxfire, I deeply appreciate that sentiment. 'Cause monsters are everywhere. Especially if you desperately wanted to play with dolls as a little boy but couldn't because you weren't in a safe place. Just like me and the author of this book, Don Martin. That's right. Imagine how thrilled I was to find out that Don Martin is a total doll freak just like me. Or at least that's how I'm interpreting this bit from his author's note where he talks about who this book was intended for. Again, I quote, "This book is also for every queer kid that grew up in a town like that, dreaming of what lay beyond the horizon, of the kind of life they might live if they grew up in a different zip code. The kids that found themselves on the wrong end of scripture, but the right side of choir. The boys that asked for Barbie Happy Meals and cried when they got Hot Wheels. Okay, that one was me." So that's all I needed to hear. He's officially a doll freak as far as I'm concerned, and I am totally here for it. But enough about me and Don's mutual obsession with dolls. The town of Foxfire itself is loosely based off of a real place called Vulcan, West Virginia. Though I don't think they had a young witch in training to help them out with anything. Still, I always love a bit of historical fiction. Because it's fun to kind of follow the trail of what sparks an author's imagination. It's like you're absorbing the root language of their inner monologue. And that inner voice is charmingly brought to life through Verity, who actually has to sing her spells. That's like her way of doing magic, is by singing. It's her voice.
I put a spell on you. And now you're mine.
So singing is a very important component of her magic. And often her singing spells are taken from nursery rhymes and folk songs and church hymns that are all kind of woven into the specific situation that she's like trying to work through. And incorporating these songs was actually a stroke of genius because they worked to like directly pull me into the magic thanks to childhood nostalgia. And magic is what this book is. From sweet little well-meaning Verity to her trusty broom riding sidekick familiar Jack Be Nimble. Maybe. Their whimsical playfulness in the face of all of their witchy duties bespeaks a heartwarming story of friendship and love that's like a warm, cozy scarf for your soul. Oh, you're a real peach. So there you have it, some thoughts on Verity Vox and the Curse of Foxfire by Don Martin. A kooky little tale of a witch in training just trying to problem solve. A book about finding your power against all odds. A slightly sapphic Appalachian story for readers of all ages. Thank you so much for watching. My dolls and I are going to be doing these videos weekly, so if this is your thing, then stay tuned. Oh, and while you're here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment for Peaches and Cream Barbie. Tell her what you think of her gorgeous dress. Maybe you could tell her what books you're into these days. You know, I'm kinda hungry. I actually could go for some Peaches and Cream right about now.